happy Thursday/Friday. If you forgot, you don't have school tomorrow. So today technically is your Friday. And we have something big we're going to do today. So I want you to go ahead and pull up, if you haven't already, Deep Study of Characters, Session 13. And our learning target for today is I can learn that in addition to the setting or places affecting characters, characters can also act as a positive or negative force on a place when they act as a group. Our essential question is, in what ways do characters affect the mood and psychology of their environment? So, readers, when we left off in Main Street, we actually didn't finish it. We have more to read. We were considering the pressures this place was putting on Treetop and how those pressures were affecting her. Yesterday, we practiced identifying how the setting of a place can keep changing psychologically and how that affects our characters. We did that with that really cute Disney short about the dog. During that video, we were tracing the setting, investigating how the nature of the place shifted and how those shifts affected characters. Readers, today I'm going to teach you that strong readers learn that in addition to places affecting characters, characters can also have a positive or negative influence or effect on a place or setting. So we're going to try out this thinking work. We're going to complete Main Street by Jacqueline Woodson. When we last read, we left Treetop at a crucial moment. So if you remember, her friendship with Celeste is going well, but we know that eventually Celeste is going to leave. We ended at this line, "not tomorrow." That line has haunted me because we know it can't be reassuring for Treetop that she's going to lose this wonderful friendship. Since we began the story, we've been investigating how the setting, its mood or atmosphere or shifting psychology might influence characters' behaviors. We came to realize that Treetop feels stifled by her father and that she can't fully express her grief around him. But now with Celeste, she feels better. It's like Celeste understands because she too is experiencing loss. She's in a world where she's the only African American for the first time, and she's away from her father and her beloved New York City. The setting of this town is affecting Celeste as well. So before we begin, I do just kind of want to explain how I've set up our work for today. So if you go into modules, well, let me hop into student view really quick so it looks the same. And I'm going to make sure that I have this. I always record this before I actually publish it, so I want to make sure you guys can view what it will look like on your end. Okay. So we're going to click where it says Part 2 of Main Street by Jacqueline Woodson, Read Aloud Video and Questions. And I have some do nows for you. So you want to open Part 2 of the text. So go ahead and open it. And you need to make a copy because I'm going to have you highlighting. So go ahead and make your copy. And then you can just close out of mine because it's not going to let you highlight, and that way you don't get frustrated. Okay. Then go ahead and open up the session slides. That way, if you need to refer back to anything I'm saying or showing you, you have them right here. And then I'm recording the video now, but the video is going to be right below these instructions. Go ahead and open it up in YouTube, and I will link it right here. So you should have 4 tabs open: Canvas, your copy of your read aloud, the slides, and then also the video. Okay. All right, so, oops, sorry, that was our lesson from today. Let me hop back into our slides. So as you listen, follow along today, I want you to be sure to highlight any mentions of key people or places in our story in pink. Any powerful quotes or 3D details about the mood, setting, and changes you see in our characters, I want you to highlight that in orange. And anything that surprises or confuses you, you're going to highlight in red. And then I've also put questions in Canvas that I want you to be responding to. And just to show you those really quick, they are at the bottom of this. So they're right here. And if it were me, I'm going to think smarter, not harder. I'm going to hit that red submit assignment button. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste these in here. So now I can go ahead and start typing my responses as we do the read aloud. Okay. Now, something I'm looking for when I'm grading these, are you responding in complete sentences and are you giving evidence from the text? That's why you have a copy of this. Remember our goal this week? We should be always including evidence, examples from the text. So I want quotes. I want exact examples from our Main Street text. And you know what's going to help? If you're highlighting, you can actually use what you've highlighted to support your responses. That's the whole reason why we do this, guys. Think smarter, not harder. Okay? So here we go. That was the year my other friends disappeared. One by one, they wanted to know why, when we had all been friends since forever. I needed this new friend now. The one black person my mother knew stole stuff, Casey said. They love rap music, Lizbeth said. Does she teach you dances? Celeste plays piano, I said quietly. She's been playing since she was small. Beethoven. She can play Beethoven. The others and I were still friends then, our dolls between our laps, their blonde hair getting wrapped into braids and curls and cut and dyed. I sat in their pink bedrooms, the rooms I'd sat in for as long as I could sit alone, and listened without knowing what to say back. It hurts here and here, I was thinking, and I don't know why it hurts, but it does. Aren't you scared? They asked. She might take things from you. She might have a gun or a knife. Her feet are big. Her hair is strange. There was one at our school once. You remember. She was adopted or something. That's all I remember. My mom said I shouldn't eat with the new one. You shouldn't either. Celeste arrived long after the doctors told my mother there was nothing they could do. And at night, my father sat behind the bathroom door, gulping back sobs. She arrived long after we buried my mother, my father and me at the graveside, our gloved hands locked together, Lizbeth and Casey behind me, standing between their own parents, safe from cancer and dead parents and holes opened in the ground. Celeste arrived in the late winter and smiled at me. Your mom would be mad if she knew, Lizbeth and Casey said. Okay, let's pause here. So the first question that I've put in your Canvas assignment, what are you thinking about this scene? So add your thoughts to that Canvas session 13 read aloud response questions. Number 1, remember our goal. I want a complete sentence responses, and I want actual evidence from the story. And if you need to pause me right now, go ahead and pause me while you type it, and then you can just hit play when you're ready to go forward. So for me, Treetop is really complicated, right? She's definitely feeling torn here. She has her old friends who are being incredibly biased and cruel, and yet she's trying to be loyal to Celeste. Once again, she feels like she can't say what she's feeling. The story gives you a lot of information about what's going on inside of Treetop's head, and those details give you a lot of information about the kind of kid Treetop is. She's not prejudiced the way her friends are. This is a great place in the story for us to embrace the complexity of her character. So instead of simply simplifying, the character of Treetop and just saying she's mad, we should instead want to be saying things like she's feeling pressure to agree with the things she doesn't believe. So as we continue reading, we want to consider the pressure on Treetop, what kind of place this is, and how it affects characters. This town seems like the kind of place where the white town members are suspicious and outright racist about people of color. The kinds of things they assume about Celeste are not based on anything real, only based on stereotypes. So you know that places affect characters. We've been working on that this week. Today, I want us to all be alert to the notion that the reverse is true too. Characters affect places. They especially affect the mood or the psychology of a place when they act as a group. I'm going to reread a few parts of this last part that I read, and I want you to listen with the lens of group psychology. See if you hear how the group of Treetop's friends and their parents is creating a particular kind of setting. Aren't you scared? They asked. She might take things from you. She might have a gun or a knife. Her feet are big. My mom said I shouldn't eat with the new one. You shouldn't either. She, Celeste, arrived long after we buried my mother, my father, and me at the graveside, our gloved hands locked together, Lisbeth and Casey behind me, standing between their own parents, safe from cancer, and dead parents, and holes opened in the ground. Celeste arrived in the late winter and smiled at me. Your mom would be mad if she knew, Lisbeth and Casey said. Okay, so here's question number 2 that I want you to answer. Who is the most influential in this place? Is it a group or an individual? Why? So I'm noticing how Treetop's old friends all sound alike. Readers, whenever characters begin to think and act alike, it can be a force for great good or a force for evil, in books and in the real world. We want to be alert then to the influence of group dynamics in a place and the effect it may have on individual characters. As we read on, will you be extra alert for the influence of group dynamics? You may begin to see something else as well, the power of a group versus the power of an individual. Be alert to that tension too. Celeste pulled me through town, making me name the trees we passed: white birch, barberry, sugar maple. I'm going to try to say this, catalapa. How do you do that? She asked again and again. How do you know? Black walnut, beech, oak, pine, I said, because I loved the feeling of her hand in mine, loved the surprising softness. I didn't tell her I'd never touched a black person before and how surprised I was the first time I touched her hair. But the second time I reached for it, Celeste's hand shot up, caught mine just inches from her head. Stop, she said once I was reaching for her hair. I'm not a dog to be petted. The following autumn, we buried Celeste's pet rabbit, Joe, in her backyard, sprinkling crushed leaves over his tiny grave. We had been friends for close to a year, and somewhere in that time had grown to the same height, wore our jeans rolled at the ankle, and tied our shirts in matching knots at our waist. Celeste wore her hair out, an amazing black halo floating over her head. I had learned to keep my hands out of it, but at school, she was constantly slapping the other kids' hands away. Some morning, when she thought no one was looking, I saw her face dip into a sadness I had only seen on my father. Those days, I wanted to grab her hand and hold on tight. But we were 11. What did we know about anything? Spring came again. I like you, Treetop, Celeste said to me one morning, but I don't like it here. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Tell me what you think. What power does the group dynamics have in this scene? What is the conflict between the group versus the individual? Treetop, you can even focus on Celeste too. I'm noticing how Treetop's friends seem to fear anyone different. It seems important to them to exclude Celeste and to make it seem like she's the scary one, even though they are the ones being cruel. I think they're the scary ones. Certainly, the group seems to wield tremendous influence, and in this case, in this place, it's for bad, not for good. Now, I want to think about the role of the individual Treetop. In many stories and in history, an individual can be the victim of a group. Sometimes the individual might be a great leader and a force for good, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the world, or Katniss in literature in the Hunger Games. But sometimes characters don't take a leadership role, and that's important to notice as well. Treetop could talk back to her friends. She does once when she mentions that Celeste plays piano, not rap music, but she does it quietly. It makes me wonder if her not speaking up is also having an effect on Celeste. So let's keep reading. But you love the leaves and the egg creams. My mom said we'd give it a year. It's been more than a year, Celeste said. She wouldn't look at me. And then finally, she did. New York is only 4.5 hours away. I know. But we both knew the distance between New Hampshire and New York as forever away, a whole lifetime. Celeste laced her fingers inside of mine. The way our fingers go, she said, brown, white, it's like the same God or Mother Nature or universe that decided to make the leaves here all crazy colored. She held up our hands. This is right too. Some afternoon, Lisbeth and Casey, met me at the pharmacy on Main Street, and the three of us sit at the window where we can watch people moving through town. Before she moved back, Celeste and I made a promise that we'd meet in New York City and celebrate our 18th birthdays together. In a week, I'll be 12. It'll be here before you know it, Celeste said. Why are you squinting? Elizabeth asked me. You act like you're not even here. And she's right. I am already leaving. I am halfway gone. Okay, I want you to answer this question for me. What was the power of the individual to act in spite of what was going on with the groups? And what I mean by this is, what was the power of Treetop and how she acted in spite of what the group of girls was doing and asking her to do? And then I have one more question for you. How does Celeste and Treetop act as individuals in the face of such pressure from that group of girls and just from the town in general? So readers, remember that the story is called Main Street. This seems important as it's clear now that the two characters we're closest to are going against the main way of thinking in the town. Treetop's friends and their parents made the town a place where Celeste couldn't bear to live, of the power of the silence around anything powerful, and how Treetop herself felt like she couldn't act against it, and that it seemed the only power they could get was in leaving. It doesn't seem like the individuals are going to win this fight, right? Celeste's only power is in moving away, and many of you may be thinking that that is what Treetop will do as soon as she's old enough too. But there are a few glimpses of another side to this. The image of the two of their hands together, the fact that they became friends at all despite the pressures of the crowd, that also seems like a sign of some power. So what's the link, the work that we just did today? How can we link this to our own reading? So today we came to realize that both group dynamics and powerful individuals can wield influence in a place. Sometimes, too, the group and the individual can be at odds with each other, which creates extra tension. As you read in your own fiction book, I want you to take note of these two things. What characters are influencing your story? And are there any strong individuals who are playing a negative role, a positive role? And then, guys, just please make sure that you submit your responses here. Make sure they're in complete sentences. You've given me evidence from the story. And then I also want you to upload your copy of the story. So you can just do that from your Google Drive. Make sure you followed the highlighting guide that I gave you in the slides and also in the instructions in Canvas. All right, guys, happy reading. Let me know if you need any help with anything.